We're gonna be talking about something fun today. I sell houses in Sonoma County, and one of the things that I love about Sonoma County is how beautiful it is and how spread out it is and how there aren't a ton of people that live here. We're in a pretty big county and there's only about 500,000 people that live here, and so we are spread out, and you come into some interesting things when you are selling properties out in the countryside, right? Because sometimes when you have no neighbors, you think, hey, I'm just gonna do this thing. I'm not gonna go get permits. I'm just gonna add on to my house. Who cares? I'm not hurting anybody. Nothing bad's gonna happen, right? And then you need to sell your property. And then I come in there like the Grim Reaper telling you all the stuff that we're gonna have to do because you've done some unpermitted additions to your property. So let's dig into how to handle unpermitted additions when it comes to selling your property, because it happens a lot here in Sonoma County. So first, let's just talk about unpermitted additions. So what is an unpermitted addition? Well, for most things that you're gonna do to your property, you're gonna need a permit to do it. Now, there are some exceptions. So like if you're just doing a minor repair to your plumbing or to your drywall or something very minor like that, no, you're not gonna need a permit to do that. But for almost anything else, you are gonna need a permit. And so, I mean, something as simple as re-roofing your house or replacing your siding or, doing a panel upgrade. You can do some of those things over the counter where it's a very simple permitting process where you just go and you say, hey, I'm replacing my water heater. I'm replacing my roof. They're like, great, here's your permit. Go do that thing. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is where you start adding square footage to your property, right? That is a no-no. So if you are doing that without permits, you are doing something a little bit dangerous, because in the future, if you go to sell your property, you may encounter problems. Now, while you're living there, you might be able to get away with it for many years, decades, lifetime even. But then when you go to sell it, then some questions are gonna have to be answered, and it might be difficult. The most extreme situation that I can think of off the top of my head is a few years back, there was a property in like the Stinson Beach, Bolinas kind of area, and it sold for $5 million. And it had 3 or 4 of these dreamy little wooden cottages on it, and nothing on the property was permitted. It was like a local artist who built this little thing, and it was very artistic and very dreamy. And somebody was willing to spend $5 million plus on it, but it had no permits. If anything bad happens or the city wants to cause you trouble, they could shut you down and possibly either make you legalize the structures and pay fines to make it okay, or they might make you demo everything that you have on your property. And so that is the worst case scenario, and we don't want that to happen. And so when I come into a situation and I have a client that has unpermitted additions, this is something like how the conversation goes. So we talk about what it is. The most common thing I'll say is bedroom count. In rural Sonoma County, you do not have access to city sewers. So you're gonna have to do your own on-site water treatment system. Now, those are expensive and they take up a lot of area on your parcel. So if you have a relatively small parcel and a relatively large house with many bedrooms, you may have a problem where you can't get an on-site water treatment system to cover the amount of bedrooms that you have in your property. This is the most common thing that we see in rural Sonoma County. There is a bit of a disconnect where like maybe you have a 5,000 square foot house, but it only has 2 bedrooms. And then it has an office and a library and a den and some other rooms that look a lot like bedrooms, but they're not calling them bedrooms because they only have a 2-bedroom septic system. And that's the only kind of septic system that they can fit on their property. And so they can only have a 2-bedroom house. But there are ways to work around it, and that's one of them, is you can just build a big house with a couple of bedrooms and then have other rooms that are very similar to bedrooms but are not called such. Another common thing that we see is like converting something into an ADU. Be it a garage or a shed or an old barn, and somebody just does it, with elbow grease. They go out there, they know a little bit about construction, they watch some YouTube videos, they turn it into an ADU. Well, that can be problematic, especially if you're renting it out to people, because if it's an illegal structure and you're renting it out to people, you could get in trouble. And so you want to be careful with that stuff. Now, one of the tools that we love is a permit consultant. So if you can get your favorite permit consultant out there, I have my favorite. Shout out to Bob Biederman at Groundswell Management. That brother has hooked us up on many transactions here in Sonoma County. What a guy like Bob does is he goes out to the property and he knows the local building codes, and he knows what you can do and what you can get away with and what needs to be permitted and what doesn't. What we commonly do if we have a question about a property is we'll pull in that permit consultant and we'll have him take a look, and he'll give us a proposal of like, okay, here's what you got. This is what the path to legalization would look like, and this is approximately what we think it's gonna cost. Do you wanna go down that road or not? Or he may say something like, ugh, this is rough. Like, I don't see a clear path to success to legalize this, so maybe we need to cut bait. It just depends on the situation, and there are as many situations as there are properties in Sonoma County or where you live. One of these permit consultants is very valuable if you're in that situation. That's one of the people that we're gonna need to get out to assess the situation and know if we can legalize this or not. So now it comes to the marketing of these things. If you have a property that has unpermitted additions, we need to be elegant in the way that we market this so as not to get you into more trouble. If you have one of these barns that's been turned into an ADU, or a shed that's larger than 120 square feet and has power and light to it that you did not get a permit for, we're gonna have to come up with a plan around that. Maybe we just call it a shed and we don't show that it has the power yet. Or maybe we just kind of gloss over that and don't talk about that part of it in our marketing, because we don't want you to get in trouble as a seller and have to pay fines for something you're not prepared to fix. The most scary example of this that I've heard of is an air conditioning unit. We had a situation a few years back where a client had installed an AC unit without permits. That's pretty innocuous, but you know what? The local permitting office has an account to look through our local MLS, and they regularly search it for keywords, and then they check their roles to see if the things that are being advertised are permitted on the property. And if they find a discrepancy, you may get a scary letter in the mail that says, hey, this thing says that you have this on your property. We need to have somebody come out and look at that because we don't show a permit record of you having done that properly. It's a scary moment because you might have to spend thousands of dollars to either take out the improvement that you made or make repairs to make it sure that it fits the local building codes and so that it can stay there. And you're probably gonna have to pay a fine to make up for your misdeeds of not getting the permit when you were supposed to. And so come talk to me and we can come up with a strategy for you and your particular property about how best to market those unpermitted additions that you don't want to get fixed yet. Sometimes buyers don't care. Sometimes buyers are like, you know what? Like that property in Bolinas I was telling you about, this is so dreamy that I'm gonna roll the dice and I just want it the way it is. But most buyers are not that way. And so most buyers are either gonna want that permit record or know what it's gonna take to legalize it. And so if you're out there doing unpermitted work on your house, just know that in the future, if you decide to sell, you may not get the full value of those unpermitted additions and improvements that you've made. So think twice before you go roll the dice and go out there making unpermitted additions. And if you want to see what your pathway to legalization looks like, reach out and we can put you in contact with one of those local permit consultants that can help you with that process. This is my PSA to you. You gotta be careful with those unpermitted additions because they can get you into trouble. So just be careful out there, people.